you. I'm in a car, so I apologize if this is weird. And I'm on my Android Samsung S3 in case that gets me a free S5. Otherwise, hello. My pleasure. Thank you guys so much for coming out to say hi. Yes, I do. I have a number of projects I'm working on. One is called Last Stop. You can go to themovielaststop.com, and that stars Mina Savari, Brian Austin Green, Joanne Kelly, and myself. I actually produced the movie. We're selling it right now. It's going to be coming out next year. I have a short feature that I directed called Experimental. We're going to make the feature film. Keep your fingers together. Also, I'm doing a movie called Number One Zombie Killer that I'm writing, directing, and starring in, and I think you're going to really like it. So look for that as soon as possible. Protocol X. It's the same thing as experimental. So go to zackward.me or go to experimentalmovie.com. But you can see the short film on both websites. Also, what's really cool, and I'm going to brag for a second, is we got selected as Pick of the Week by Ain't It Cool News, and that was a huge honor. Number One Zombie Killer is a feature film that I'm writing, directing, producing, and starring in, and we're working on getting that done right now. So we're in the development stage where we're writing the script, but we already have financing attached, and we're looking at shooting it in the beginning of the year. All right, great question. Thank you. What made me want to get into acting is my mother's an actress. I've been traveling around with her since I was 5 years old, being backstage or on set. And when I was a kid in Stratford, Ontario, I was playing backstage at the Stratford Festival Theatre with swords and armor and all that stuff. And I watched what these people did, and I just fell in love with it, and I wanted to play. And fortunately, my mother allowed me to get involved. And so I got into commercials. And then my first feature film was A Christmas Story. And the rest, as we say, is history. Resident Evil was awesome. Resident Evil Apocalypse was fantastic. Now, this is my lawyer and best friend, Julius Amorgis, in the background. They can see you. Say hello. 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 The cool thing, Julius was actually there. And true story, I did Resident Evil Apocalypse as a Canadian, local hire, meaning they didn't give me anywhere to stay and they didn't give me any per diem. But I wanted to be part of a giant $60 million movie and do something that I thought was awesome. So I did it. Now, Mila Jovovich finds out that I'm basically living on my brother's couch, and she tells me, no. I'll give you an apartment that was going to go to my assistant. She took care of me so well. She was like my older sister. And the woman is so kind and so sweet. We lived together after I left the apartment complex. I went over, rented a house, and I ended up living with her. Nothing sexual. We were always just friends. Thank you for asking. But I ended up teaching her how to do stick fighting. And if you remember Resident Evil Apocalypse, there's a great stick fighting sequence where she's running down the side of a building and then fights all the bad guys. And those were my sticks that she was fighting with. For me, Resident Evil Apocalypse was an amazing experience. I got to train with Russian spaznauts for 3 months. Incredible weapons, incredible crew, fantastic actors, great opportunity, and I got to do a Russian accent, which is a lot of fun. You know, when it comes to the specifics of the genres I like to work in, it has to do with the people I'm teamed up with. Because regardless of whether it's action or drama or comedy, it's all the team that you're embedded with. Because they're the ones that are going to have your back or leave you on your back. And if you work with a good team, everything gets better and better and better. You can do the greatest movie in the world, and if everybody you work with sucks, your performance is not going to get any better. I love the challenge of a new. Please repeat the question. That's all right. I like them both equally. I mean, we're I like both aspects of the of filmmaking equally, whether it's in front of the camera or behind. There's a different responsibility when you're behind the camera because you have to take care of everybody. When you're an actor, you become very isolated in your process and you commit to that one shining moment. There's a lot of selfishness in that and also a lot of emotional vulnerability. When you're producing or directing, your responsibility is to more than just yourself. So in some ways, it's the difference of being a parent and being a child, and everybody likes to be both. I want it to surprise me. If you're not surprising me, then I'm bored, and if you're boring me, then I'm turning it off. I'm a huge fan of horror films. I'm also a huge fan of romantic comedies. I like to cry. I'm a big girl sometimes. Um, I what were we talking about? Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead. Sam Raimi stuff, fantastic. But there's Army of Darkness. Sorry, but also Highlander. Also looking at the Name of the Rose. Highlander number one. Yeah, not the rest of them. No bueno. The series was good, but not the other movies. Um, in the Name of the Rose, the original book by Umberto Eco, fantastic. The book, the movie, fantastic. So I like a movie that's going to surprise me with its choices because if I'm ahead of the film, then I'm bored. And I think that's a lot like the rest of the American audience is we're so exposed to entertainment and content that unless you're smarter than us, you're not going to keep us on our toes. So I want to be kept on my toes, whether that's through good writing or emotional vulnerability. Either way, I want to laugh or cry and not expect it. I'm not sure how to answer that question. In each movie I do, I'm trying, my groundwork is my resume, obviously, but my goal is to step above what I've done before and also push myself to a level that I might not be comfortable with. At the same time, I need to fit the film to make the right character work for the story. Otherwise, it becomes masturbatory. And then I'm not serving the audience, I'm just serving myself. So it's a balance. Uwe Boll is a sweetheart of a guy. I like him very much personally. I think that his filmmaking style suffers from an overindulgence in ego and not enough work ethic. And I think that he's become a better and better filmmaker as he's moved forward in his career. But I think he has to push the chip off his shoulder and just get down to making movies. Christmas Story when I was a kid was fantastic. It was like summer camp, but with snow, and it was literally a winter wonderland because there was no snow in Cleveland when we shot it. So they built all the snow and all the icicles, and they made it become this fantastic world that you believed in. And for me, it was my first feature film, and I learned such an incredible amount from Bob Clark that still to this day resonates with me as a person, as an adult, as a human, and as a director. And it's funny because as I've gotten more and more into directing, I look at Bob Clark's earlier work, whether it be Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, or Porky's, or Turk 182, or Black Christmas, all these fantastic movies that really didn't get the respect they deserved back in the day. But now you look at what he did with so little money, and he always carried that level of excellence, and it's kind of passed the torch on to me in a way that I'm trying to carry it as best I can. It was an amazing experience to be part of, and it's one of those things that I relish all the time. Hello, hello. All right, about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. My ideal next project is going to be one that I'm directing and writing and acting in. And the acting is going to push the boundaries, and the writing is going to push the boundaries. And we're going to make something that gives the audience everything they want and then scares the hell out of them. Oh, wait, that's number one zombie killer. That's exciting. Right. Well, the question that I'm most tired of answering is, do you know that TBS plays A Christmas Story for 24 hours a day every year? Yes. Yes. And the other question is, when you were a kid, did you ever think that A Christmas Story was going to become what it is? And obviously, no, because if I knew what was going to happen 30 years in the distance future, I would have invested in Apple. It was both fantastic and a pain in the ass. Chris Titus is a brilliant, brilliant comedian. Jack Kenny and Brian Hargrove, who were the showrunners of the series, were fantastic to work with. You know, Chris had a lot of demons at the time. He had to fight against a psychotic wife at the time, who's now his ex-wife. So it made it difficult. Recently, I was just on Mike and Molly, and it was really an honor to be on a set where all the people were going in the same direction, and incredibly grateful for what they had, and there was no anger issue. Chris had a lot of anger back then, and that's the reason why the series got canceled. I think Chris has changed a lot since then, but really, you know, you only get a shot at something like Titus once, and it never comes back again. So as much as I'd like to do a recap of Titus show, it won't ever happen. So, but it was one of those things where you would get a script and you would literally be amazed that you got the opportunity to make that script turn into a TV show. It was incredible. On one of the millions of TV shows that I've done as a guest star, um, it was funny. I've done all the CSI Miami, CSI Vegas, and then CSI New York. And the last one I did was CSI Miami. And I was on set, and I call it the douchebag du jour, where it's basically just the bad guy of the episode who's kind of a dick. And I was on set, and to me, it was an interchangeable role. It didn't require any joie de vivre. It didn't require any specific outlook on the character. It was just filling in dialogue. So I booked the job, always grateful for the job. You know, one attitude I always have is I'm very happy to be working and I love doing what I do. And I'm on set and I turn to the director. I'm like, you know, I don't mean to be crass or ungrateful. I'm very happy for working always. But why did you hire me to do this? Because literally anybody could do this. And she looks at me, she goes, "You're right. I mean, it's one of those roles." I'm like, "I know, I don't take it personally." She goes, "But I just wanted to work with the kid from A Christmas Story." Yeah, I was like, "Well, you know what? If I'm selling that and you're buying, good day. I'll take it." Ah, my advice to a writing slash director is write slash direct. Write as much as you can, direct as much as you can, even if it's on your camcorder on your phone. There's no excuse for not generating content and then turning around and editing it. You will learn so much by doing it and fucking it up, better than if you hoped for the perfect day, all the money, the big screen, all that stuff. You don't need it. You need you and your drive. Go get it done, and the more you do, the better you become. And then you're not a liar, you're a doer. And then people will trust you. You'll get better crew, you'll get better actors, you'll get better distribution opportunities. Do that, and then do as much social marketing as of your stuff as possible. Make sure people see it. And don't be afraid of people pissing down your leg and telling you suck. The reality is you have to take praise and the critiques at the same level. Some have value, some do not.
but you have to be able to listen to them both and move forward. Otherwise, you're not an artist. You're just a talker. Uh, Number one zombie killer is number one, an awesome title. Thank you very much. It is meant to be tongue in cheek on the title. It is meant to mislead you as to what you think it is and to satisfy your gory expectations and then twist your brain. It's kind of like Evil Dead meets The Sixth Sense. Ma? Right? A little bit. The way I came up with my accent in Transformers was pretty much cheating, because living with Mila Jovovich and working with Spaznuts are the Russian Navy SEALs. Um, I got to work with all these Russian people, and I would run my dialogue with them, and they would tell me where my accent was off and how to make it better. And so my accent was originally the most specific, accurate accent you could get. However, once we finished the movie, I had to go redo or redub the entire movie to make it more understandable to an American audience. Um, but honestly, if you want to learn a good accent, just go hang out with people who speak that way, and you'll pick it up pretty fast. An interesting fact about me: when I was between the ages of 18 and 20, I spent about a year and a half by myself traveling around the world, during which I worked in the circus in Australia, and I was a rigger in the circus before I broke my back. All right. Well, number one, how do I regurgitate your question without sounding like an egotistical dick? It's okay for all the people who are watching the Skype, and thank you for your patronage. Robert just commented about how apparently I am known on the convention circuit as being a really nice person who's fun to hang out with, and apparently in Chicago there was something known as the Zack Ward experience. I can tell you with Chicago that was so fucking awesome is that we were in a hotel, and we were up in a hotel room, and we were drinking, but the hotel room looked over the front driveway to the hotel, which had that big overhang, right? And so the window, so it's snowing outside. I haven't been around snow in a while. I open the window and I can step out onto it. So with a bottle of whiskey in my hand, I go out onto the overhang and I start a snowball fight at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and it was freaking epic, dude. It was so much fun. And it was just whacking people in the face with soft snow. I mean, and drinking Johnny Walker. That's a good night. The rest of Robert's question was, why do I get along with people so well? And it's pretty simple. I've been an actor for 34 years. I was a child actor. I grew up in Canada. Canada does not have a star system. No one gave a fuck whether or not I was in a movie or a TV show or a commercial. They would literally, the hockey team would turtle me, which is when they pull your sweater over your head and punch you in the face. So there was no one was ever blowing smoke up my ass as a celebrity. So when I'm at a con or I'm on the street or I'm at a restaurant, and if I meet somebody who is familiar with my work or a fan of what I do, and they're nice, then I'm nice to them, because they're people, and I'm a person, and I'm a fan of other people's work, and I enjoy their stuff. If someone's a dick to me, then I'm a dick to them. I think that's pretty much fair. But if you get a chance, and I don't get to see you guys out there in Skype land, but if you get a chance to come up and say hello and say that you've seen this, which is me holding my cell phone in my other hand. See, I'm changing hands. In my friend's garage, so I don't wake up his kids, because I'm visiting him in Akron, Ohio. I know Akron is very glamorous Hollywood, but you come up and introduce yourself to me, tell me where you met me or saw my Skype. We'll have a conversation, and unless you're a complete dick about it, I'll be as nice as I can be, unless I have a pressing engagement. My attitude has always been that if I don't have an audience that cares for my work, then I don't have a job. And I'm really fortunate to do what I do for a living. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And so to be able to connect with people on a one-to-one basis, whether it's via Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or face-to-face, it means a lot to me. And it's changed the way we make movies nowadays. And I think it's for the better, because I think we include you more. And I think you deserve that for your dollars and your time. And as an actor and as a writer and as a director, I want to have a connection with my audience where I'm giving them what they want and I'm surprising them with the next. And I can't do that unless I listen. And acting is about listening. Wow, if I could go anywhere in time and space, I would like to go to Mars. If I could go anywhere in time and space, I would like to go to Mars maybe in 400 years when we've terraformed it, because everybody on Mars would have adapted to the gravity, and they'd be really tall and really thin, and I'd be like John Carter by comparison, so I'd be super, super strong and a throwback, and I'd say things like, dude, that's cool. And they go, what are you saying? That's the craziest language we've ever heard. But all the women would think I was awesome, and I'd be super strong. And all of a sudden, my hair would grow really long and less luxurious because it wouldn't be fighting the same gravity. And I'd be really sexy there on Mars. So I need Mars and 400 years to be good looking. You're a dick. Honestly, my music tastes suck. I like everything. If it's good, I listen to NPR, National Public Radio, all the time because I'm lazy. Chocolate City Sounds Eclectic is fantastic. I like classical music when I'm driving. I like to listen to classical so I can think and work on scripts. If I want to dance, I might listen to tango. I might listen to club or house music. So unfortunately, I don't have any great answer for that, but I don't like top 40 pop music radio because very quickly it all sounds like the same shit. Sorry, Katy Perry. Although some of Katy Perry's stuff is really good. So now I'm waffling and the perfect politician. Right. Yeah. Audition for Freddy versus Jason. The whole texture of the movie was much more realistic and scary and upsetting. And then when I shot it, I actually shot a lot more of what was actually shown in the movie you saw. So I wish that was actually in there, but I think they made the right decision with the style of movie because what people wanted was more of a tongue-in-cheek fungasm with Freddy and Jason than it would have been. And I think the proof is in the pudding when it came to what the recent version of Freddy Krueger was, where it got too serious and it pretty much ostracized all the fan base. Yes and no. Yes and no. I think it's like what, and then this is me saying the reason I say this is because I've hung out with Robert Englund quite a bit, and we talked about it, and he's actually told me that I'd make a great new Freddy. So if anybody wants to push that, go ahead. But when it comes to Freddy Krueger movies, what Freddy Krueger did was he enjoyed his moment. He actually really enjoyed being the bad guy. He was the anti-hero that you rooted for because you wanted to see his crazy kills. And in one way, it was really the precursor of the 80s style of horror. I mean, if you think about 80s films, they were all about pretty much enjoying the process of fantasy. You look at the Goonies, you look at E.T., you look at Close Encounters of the Third Kind, even Halloween and that type of stuff. It's still, there's a fantasy fulfillment aspect as opposed to where they went to with the new Freddy Krueger or the new Nightmare on Elm Street, where it was too real. It was too real. Freddy Krueger was a pedophile, and you can't really root for him. So it took away all the joy. And you know, when you're dealing with Freddy Krueger, you have a huge legacy value that we already know what we expect and what we want from Freddy Krueger. And so you can't take that all away and start from scratch and tell us now he's an evil pedophile with a burned face and he was just a dick. And I feel sorry for the cast that made it because they knew that they were walking in the shoes of giants and they got slaughtered. And I don't think it was their fault. I would love to do The Walking Dead, and I would not want to be a walker, but I would want to be someone who turned into a walker eventually, but had an agenda. An evil walker agenda. No, that would be fun. And actually, I would do anything with Frank Darabont. Ooh. Oh, well, I don't know which movie. Okay, if I could rewrite any movie, which movie would I rewrite? Hmm. I don't know, but I'll tell you which movie I would do a sequel to. Big Trouble in Little China. That would be awesome. Yes. When it comes to conventions, I'm going to be in Hammond, Indiana for a Christmas story on the 6th, 7th, and 8th of December. Then I'm going to be in Buffalo for the 13th and the 14th, and then Pittsburgh for the 15th. But I'll also be in London, Ontario, Canada for the 11th. I haven't done it for many years. But this being, when it comes to conventions, I don't do Christmas story stuff every year because I see it. I don't want to wear people out. But when it comes to the 30th anniversary of A Christmas Story, I thought this was a great opportunity to raise money for bully prevention programs and get the word out there. So yes, my November through the middle of December has been packed, and I've been on the road for about a month. Actually, have I ever thought of writing books or doing book tours? Yes, I have. Um, I'm a huge fan of Stephen King, and not because of the horror aspect, to be honest. What I love about Stephen King is the way that he communicates with his audience. There's a great book that he wrote called, um, what's it called? A Memoir of the Craft. Yeah, A Memoir of the Craft, My Life in Writing. And if you get a chance to read that book, it's as if the master is sitting beside you having a beer discussing how to be a writer. And I love the way that he's able to use the inner voice of his characters to communicate content and moments that we experience as individuals inside ourselves. That type of thing that is very rarely shown in films. And I think that because I do write scripts, it would actually, in some ways, not saying it's easier, but there's more landscape to fill, and the audience is more willing to traverse the geography with you and become embedded in that environment. And that to me is really exciting. So it's one of the challenges of my life. I would like to find time to do that because it's something that I really enjoy is writing. Hold on just a second. My lighter died and I have to light a cigarette off another one. The reason I would want to do a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China is because Robert, what's the lead character's name from Big Trouble? What's the actor's name? Right. Come on, knock it out. You got a computer in front of you. I'm on the phone. Kurt Russell. So my entire life, I've been told that I look like a young Kurt Russell. And when he was young, he had red hair. So it's one of those things that I always thought I would be perfect to play a young or a Kurt Russell's son who suddenly had the instinct and the reaction time. And just going into that world with a fantastic mythology would be awesome. Plus, John Carpenter is super cool. Working with Chuck Norris on Walker, Texas Ranger was very intimidating. He was this really sweet guy, really nice, but my character knocks him out with a tree branch. It's a fake tree branch, but I knock him out. And everybody on the crew was coming up to me saying, "Hey, you're the only guy in 4 seasons to knock out Chuck." And I said to them, "I'm only acting." They're like, "No, you knocked out Chuck." And they were like pissed at me about the fact that I knocked out Chuck Norris. And it was one of those things when you, even in a fake fight, you beat up the hero, you're a douchebag. So I went from being very sweet and adored by the crew to, I thought I was going to get my ass kicked. But he was awesome. Well, in regards to my anti-bullying campaign, if you go to Indiegogo and you look up "Go Fark Yourself," or you look up the Fark Night, like the darknight.com, or if you look up "Make Bullying Say Uncle," it'll all take you to my Indiegogo campaign page, or if you go to zackward.me. Originally, my idea was to make an app on your phone where you could farkify yourself through a photograph, turn yourself into your favorite Christmas bully. But I'm not Steve Jobs, and I don't know how to make apps, so I fucked that up. And now my sole goal is to raise money for bully prevention and after-school programs in underserved schools and communities around the country. So at the end of my process, I'm going to take whatever monies I raise, and based upon the vote of all the people who have submitted money, we will give a big stinky check to a school or a program somewhere that will help kids. I'm not a rocket scientist. I just do what I can. Being Farkas 30 years later is like being Norm in Cheers. Everybody is nice to you. Everybody thinks they know you from being an old friend. I get to walk into any bar, any restaurant in the country, and automatically have people want to buy me a drink, even though they don't know where they know me from. And a lot of times they'll think that I dated their sister in high school, or I might owe them money. But it's different from being Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt because I'm part of their family. So their knee-jerk reaction is to give me a hug and say hello and be friendly. I've never considered myself a celebrity, and the height of my celebrity status is pretty much Scott Farkas. But Scott Farkas is that guy that you like, who's your buddy, that you share every Christmas with, and you're happy to see him. So for me, it's been like pass go, collect $200, and everywhere you go, people are nice to you, and you might get a handshake and a hug, and that's kind of awesome. I do have a Twitter account. It's Total Zack Ward. And I have Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is Total Zack Ward as well. And Robert will be posting all of these sites and links on his site, so you can say hello. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. Okay,
I did Dollhouse, and yes, I did get to meet Joss Whedon, and yes, that was really cool. That was super awesome cool. The audition was hilarious because I came in and my battery's dying, but we're 10:57, so we're good. All right, so I came in for the audition for Dollhouse. I'm reading for one role, which is super military, and I do that because I have a lot of military training. Because I've had the honor of working with Navy SEALs and Spasnots and SWAT teams and all that, and Delta Force. So I do the military thing, and then Jed Whedon, Joss's brother, says to me, "No, read the other part." Okay, so I read that, and I do it, and then he says, "No, do it more like you. You know, a lovable asshole." I'm like, "What?" He's like, because you're kind of a lovable asshole. So I just do him like me, and then I find out when we're on set, I find out that he's a huge Christmas Story fan. And one of the main reasons that he wanted to cast me is because he hated Scott Farkas as a kid, and he just wanted to work with him. So that was cool. And then when we were down at Comic-Con, they released the DVD of Dollhouse with a comic book in it. And I've got a comic book version of me, which is the most amazingly cool shit I've ever been a part of. Because I'm a comic book nerd, and to be in a comic book is a huge honor. So, yeah, I got to be with Joss before he directed Avengers, but he was telling me, "Hey, man, I'm directing Avengers." And that was, I don't know, that was really neat. It was really cool. I don't know what glass you guys are talking about. I'm drinking a red wine. It's a Malbec. Oh, Robert, seriously, thank you for the opportunity. It's really nice to it was a great interview. Lots of great questions. Thank you, everybody, for really interesting questions. And Robert, if you ever get a chance to drop by either LA or any of the cons that I'm at, please drop by and say hello. And anybody else who's out there who's been part of this or watched it, please drop by and say hi. I know I come off like a dick, but I'm actually kind of a nice guy. Happy holidays, guys. Merry Christmas.